What is up, Sooner Nation? Welcome back to the Sooner Surge as we are going to talk about the spring game, instant reaction, our thoughts from the spring game as it has just ended. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure you go to fanstop.com. Check that out. Great shirts, great OU shirts, officially licensed. Can't beat it. You order the monthly subscription, you get one every month. And if you use code SURGE, you get 10% off your first 3 months. Go check it out. Jackson, the spring game is in the books. Red team offense wins, and with a late touchdown there. And let's just talk about our overall thoughts from the spring game, Jackson. Give me some overall thoughts.
Well, I'm going to start off by saying the obvious, and that Deion Burks, that man put on a show, Jason. I mean, whenever I was watching him play, the way he's able to get behind the defense, was able to just use his speed to separate across the middle of the field. That reminded me a lot of Marquise Brown. Now, I'm not going to go that far yet to make that comparison because he has not played an actual game in an Oklahoma uniform, and it's just a spring game. But can Deion Burks fly? I mean, it's incredible. Just the way that Deion Burks was really able to really just get separation, use his speed to really get open down the field. And Jackson Arnold just threw a beautiful ball down the seam to him for a 64-yard touchdown, and which really got things clicking on all cylinders for the offense. And then the first team offensive line, I thought did a pretty good job for the majority of the game. They held up. The talk throughout all of spring was the offensive line, the shuffling that had been there up front. I thought the first team offensive line, they really did. They played well, especially in the run game. They were able to get Hicks and Sawchuk some opportunities to get some good runs. Caleb Hicks as well, Jason, he flashed a few times as well. There was a play in the open field where he was one-on-one with Jaden Hardy, and he just made Jaden Hardy absolutely whiff. It was a beautiful move. And then defensively, linebacker, extremely, extremely deep, like we've heard all year. Safety, extremely, extremely deep. One guy that stood out to me, I think, at linebacker was Kobe McKenzie. He just made plays. He was hitting hard. He was there, it seemed like, in every single time he was in the game. At safety, true freshman Michael Boganowski. Buy your stock now because I think that kid's going to be special, Jason. He made a ton of plays. He was involved a lot. Now, I know him and Kaniah Walker did get burned, I believe, by Deion Burks, if I remember correctly, on that one play. But outside of that, he was running some with the first-team defense as well as the second team. So he was getting those opportunities. And on the defensive line, I thought Stone looked solid in the play he got. Jaden Jackson looked solid. Grayson Halton had back-to-back sacks.
So yeah, I thought Grayson Halton looked the best on the defensive line. I mean, I thought he looked really, really good. You can tell he's bigger, and he made a lot of plays there. I thought he was outstanding. PJ Adebawore had some good flashes rushing the passer. I would say this, starting offensively wise, I agree with you on the offensive line. The number one offensive line out there, in particular, Bates and Fabechi together worked pretty well together. I thought they looked pretty good. Receiver-wise, yeah, Burke stood out. I was surprised of the day was no catches for Bowers Sharp that I can remember. I mean, they didn't really throw the ball his way. They did once, and he got lit up. But Jackson Arnold, I thought, looked good. I did think there's a few times where he would get rushed, and he would just kind of throw it down or throw it into traffic. And a couple times his receivers got rocked. So that's something I think he could, it is a spring game. But Hawkins didn't have much time at all to throw the ball. And other than the first three dives that the offense just went out there and dominated, the defense settled down, and they looked pretty good in some areas. I will say, Trace Ford had a couple jumped off sides. That was disappointing. But overall, I mean, the guys you mentioned are the same guys I kind of thought stood out. Kobe McKenzie at linebacker looked good. Defensive back, I thought Reggie Powers is another name that's going to be a really good player down the road for Oklahoma. Defensive back, they were without a lot of guys. I mean, Woody Washington didn't play. Gentry didn't play. We can go down the list. There's quite a few guys that didn't play. But, yes, Caleb Hicks on offense looked really good as well, I thought. So no Barnes today. So I mean, you get what you get in a spring game, and I think you saw some things, but you can't overreact. You can't overreact that the offense looked great the first few drives. I mean, Arnold did miss Burks a couple times deep. But yeah, Deion Burks looks like a stud, certified stud.
Yeah, and I think that whenever you talk about Michael Hawkins Jr., Jason, although he didn't have much time, he really didn't seem to get too rattled. Obviously, you saw the freshman maybe in him in which he would leave the pocket a little bit too early, sometimes try to use his legs, in which you'd maybe like to see him go through another read or two in the pocket and try and make some throws. But I think outside of that, Hawkins, he looks solid. Something that I think I really took away from the QBs as a whole was they didn't seem to force the ball into scary situations outside of the one throw that Arnold had that was almost intercepted. There wasn't really many scary situations that I can remember off the top of my head. And also, this freshman class as a whole, Jason, I think is going to be super special because it starts up front whenever you have Danny Okoye, Jaden Jackson, David Stone, and then obviously at safeties, right, you have Reggie Powers, Michael Boganowski, Jaden Hardy. Even you saw a nice play made at corner by Eli Bowen as well. So these freshmen, especially on the defensive side of the ball, were able to step up quite a bit.
Yeah. What did you think of Malone? I thought he looked pretty good out there.
Yeah, he did. He looked like a guy that's played a lot of football.
And it was interesting. I think Sammy Oshmingo, I cannot pronounce the last name. I thought he looked pretty good. They got a lot of guys. And so today, I don't think you really learned a lot about who's going to actually be your starters. I mean, in some aspect, you know some of them. But yeah, in some roles, you're still wondering. Like Cheetah, still wondering, right? Who's it going to be? Dolby? A lot of talk about Dolby. But just so many guys out today, it's hard to tell. I will say I was probably, and what's the biggest thing you learned from today, Jackson? Let me go first. I would say that I think Josh Bates, I think he played really good. And maybe he is that guy at center, right? I do think they need depth there. That's a thing with Hickman in town visiting. I think they need depth because behind him, I mean, you had a Sosa play some today, but I just think you need depth at center. But I do think Bates is good. I loved how he went after, was it Boganowski on that hit late?
Yeah.
Man, yeah. Bates went right out there after him. You'd love to see that from your center. I thought he was really solid. Bates and Fabechi. Fabechi was really good. So they're loaded at wide receiver. We already knew that. They're loaded. I mean, you could talk about the guys that didn't play today. Nick Anderson, Jalil Farouk. I mean, they are absolutely loaded at receiver. And the offense is going to be okay. I just think I'm interested to see what their rotation is going to be defensively. Defensive line, is it going to be Halton and Jackson? I mean, Halton looked really good to me, so we'll see. You didn't, so we'll see what happens, Jackson. What was the biggest thing you learned today?
For me, the biggest thing that I learned was I see. Okay, I don't know how too far ahead of myself I'm going to get on this, Jason. But I think I learned that Deion Burks is going to be the best wide receiver in the SEC this year. I mean, I think that his speed, his route running, his ability to get open across the middle of the field was absolutely impressive. Now, I know they were only going against a second string defense, but all the spring, Jason, what was the one name that we heard consistently on offense after every single practice? Deion Burks. And he showed why. And I think that whenever Oklahoma is able to get Jalil Farouk healthy, Nick Anderson healthy, Andrew Anthony healthy, it's going to make more opportunities for Deion Burks to be more open because Oklahoma, they're extremely deep and talented at wide receiver. And also, whenever I watch this team play just from top to bottom, I think whenever they're fully healthy, this is the most talented Oklahoma team since 2019 from top to bottom. I think that there's really just guys everywhere, dudes that have the potential to be all conference, maybe even some All-Americans at certain spots. So I think Oklahoma this year is a super, super talented team, but they are playing in the SEC in year one, and they do have a gauntlet of a schedule.
Yeah. And so I mean, there you kind of have our instant reaction about some few things with the Sooners. We're going to be more in depth as we do full video later with all the Sooner Surge crew. But wanted to get this out to you guys and love to hear your thoughts. Drop the comments in here. What did you like? What did you learn? Any disappointments from the spring game today? Appreciate your comments. Appreciate you liking the video, and always love it when you subscribe. So be a part of it. Appreciate you guys. As always, it felt good to watch some football today. I'll say that. So it's just around the corner to be here soon. So till next time, guys. Boomer.
Sooner.